Okay, let's see what we can do with hair assets in Daz 3D. Again, we're using our Genesis 8 female model in our scene. So let's just filter by context so we can see all the hair products that are designed for this model. And I think we'll go with the Clio hair. And we'll go with the Genesis 8 version. So as usual, with our character selected, let's double click that. And that's looking cool, although it is looking a little transparent in the viewport here. So let's first click here and turn off the floor, which makes things a little easier to see. And we might also switch back to texture shaded mode. Okay, that hair's a bit easier to see now. So some hair products come with their own materials, accessories, and in this case, poses as well. So to make her hair look a bit more dynamic and not just falling straight down, we will need to select the hair object from the hierarchy and apply a more interesting pose. Let's try this one, which probably suits the body pose a bit better, although I feel like the hair would probably be more to this side if she turned her body like this. So maybe we'd be better off with something like this instead. That's better. So that's our basic hair posing. One thing I'll also mention that I've just noticed with this product is that some assets also have a lost and found filter, as we can see here. And basically, this is just where anything that doesn't have any metadata will end up. So it's probably worth checking because sometimes poses will end up in here like this because they don't have any tags or don't fit into the different filters. Okay, let's also take a look under the materials where we've got different options for coloring the hair. So let's maybe go with this blue option here. So again, making sure the hair is selected, we'll double click that and that's looking pretty cool. So let's have a look at manually posing our hair as well. If we click on one of these painted plaits of the hair, we could manually rotate that out a bit more. Or with the active pose tool here, which again we'll look at more in depth in the posing section of the course, we can click and drag these out to influence all of the plaits together in a bit more of an organic kind of way. Or we could try that on the main body of the hair as well, and this bit as well. Or we could go back to the root of the hair, and under the parameters tab, you can see we've got the name of the hair here. And under the actor filter, we get a load more sliders we can use to tweak the different parts of the hair. So let's try this first one, which lifts the crown of the hair up and down. Or we could adjust the hairline, or try some of these ones. And we can also head over to the posing tab and click on actor again, where we'll find even more options to control the hair. And the fringe controls down here are quite cool. Then down here will allow us to twist those braids or flare them out a bit. And when you're happy with the hair, it's probably a good idea to switch back to the iRay view to see how things are looking when rendered, just to make sure the hair is sitting the way you like it. And we might just increase the exposure a bit in the tone mapper again so we can see that a bit better. And that's the standard way to pose your hair, but we can also simulate hair dynamically as well. So let's take a look at another example and see how to do that. So just like clothing in Daz, we can simulate assets that are D-Force compatible. So under our hair filter, let's do a quick search for D-Force, of which we currently have 5 different hair products installed. And I've actually already applied this one to our Genesis 8 character here. So let's head over to the simulation settings and reset this back to the defaults. So we're starting fresh and we'll try simulating our hair. And just like we did when simulating cloth, we need to remove anything in our scene that we don't want to be part of our sim, like the boots, for example. And we can do that by switching off the visibility, or down here under display, simulation, we'll just turn off visible in simulation. And we'll do that on all the items of clothing in our scene so that we're only left with the character and the hair. And the hair is actually in 2 parts. This bit is the main hair geometry, and this is the scalp, which if we take a closer look at by hitting Control F, is just a separate geometry that has this texture applied to it. So we don't really need that in our simulation either. So we'll switch that off as well. So now we've only got the D-Force hair and our character geometry included in the sim. So we'll frame this up again. And we could run this as is from our memorize pose, which like we looked at back in the clothing lesson, we'll go from the original A pose to the current pose, which will actually be quite slow on here. So that's one way to go. But we could also clear that and switch that off so that the pose stays like this and the hair settles straight down into place because of gravity. So something like this, which is also quite slow. So let's stop that there. Or another thing we could do to get this hair to match the pose a bit better, it looks like she's jumping downward in this direction. So it'd be cool if we could push the hair back this way. So let's clear this. And if we come up here to the Create menu, we can probably do this with a D-Force Wind node, which is similar to the Wind Force in Cinema 4D. And we'll accept that. And if we zoom out a tad, we can see the wind node down here. So we could grab that and move it wherever we want in the scene. And I might just angle that upward a bit so it's pointing in the direction of her face. Then we'll take a look at the wind settings in our wind node. And these are very similar to the wind settings we'd expect to find in Cinema 4D as well. But before we go changing any of these, let's see what the default settings give us. So let's simulate this. And the hair just drops straight down again like it did before. So it doesn't look like the wind is affecting it yet. So let's cancel that and clear the sim again. If we want the hair to be affected by the wind in Daz Studio, we actually need to make sure it's within the area of influence here. So within these bounds. So let's just try repositioning this directly in front of her face. About there should do it. And to be completely sure our hair is within the wind node's area of influence, let's just enlarge that by increasing the diameter setting here. And there's also a fall off control, which can adjust this outer area as well, just like we get in Cinema 4D. But we don't really need to do that for this sim. So let's leave this as is and re-simulate. And we'll stop that there. That wind is definitely starting to push the hair back in this direction, but I think I want it to be a bit more extreme and even lift upward a bit more. So let's grab the wind again and rotate it upward a little bit more. And we'll also double the strength to 10 and clear and re-simulate that. And actually, I'll just double check that our hair still fits within those bounds. And we'll just bring it down a tad and try that. And we'll stop that there. And it's definitely starting to get there. But if we take a look from up here, you can see that that wind is blowing air up here and pushing this part of the hair around here. And the same on the other side, which looks a bit weird. Ideally, we want this part to be blowing backwards as well to make it look like she's falling down. But the problem is our character mesh is actually blocking the wind and preventing it from affecting the hair directly behind the head. So the wind is only going around the sides. So to fix that, all we need to do is grab our character and back down in the simulation settings, we can just remove her from the sim. So the wind will only affect the hair. So we'll clear that and try this again. And we'll stop that there. And now if we take a look from the top, that wind's now going straight through and pushes all the hair in the direction we want. And I think that's looking a bit more realistic. So we'll fire off an iRay render. And that's pretty much the basics of hair in Daz Studio.